702. Bruce Whitfield, The Money Show on Talk Radio 702.
Director of the Political Futures Consultancy, the independent political analyst, Daniel Silke on the line to us from Cape Town. She's saying the right things, Daniel, but as you know, a political message or an economic message needs to percolate through many layers of silt and gravel and clay before it makes any sense to policymakers.
Yes, Bruce. Look, I think what she has done is that she's reminded her own party bosses, in a sense, because I think it's fair to say that she's very much a manifestation of cadre deployment at the highest level. She's reminded her own party bosses that the government does have a coherent set of future principles in the National Development Plan, and that they shouldn't stray too far from it. By talking about the broader systemic structural problems in the country, she articulated many of the issues that are covered in government documents in the NDP, a debate that's got watered down and lost with the increasing bodies who are opposing the NDP. And she's saying, look here, you guys have got the policies, let's return to that debate, and let's not get sidetracked by populist debates and the issues surrounding the labour movement and the role of the labour movement in the ANC over the next year. I think it's a very direct warning to her own political party bosses that they've got to follow a particular course.
Is that a warning, though, that is got fertile breeding ground, or is it just the Reserve Bank governor wittering along about complicated things that are out of our control as politicians?
Well, I think during normal times, I think that she would have more clout, but it is a year before an election. And in this year before an election, I don't believe that we're going to see any dramatic policy initiatives. I think it's extremely difficult now for government to even start implementing aspects of the National Development Plan, given the levels of opposition creeping in from the labour unions, from the Communist Party, from key alliance partners. So the election campaign itself, the political inertia and policy inertia that brings to our country every time we have an election, I think stands against, of course, Jill Marcus's advice being heeded.
But the trouble is, we have elections every 4, is it 5 years?
5.
5 years, thank you. I forget these things. For the first 2.5 years after an election, we're busy positioning ourselves in the new dispensation. And then for the 2.5 years before the next election, we reposition ourselves ahead of that election to make sure that we make the biggest amount of political capital. And in the interim, not too much gets achieved. And that's devastating for all of us.
Well, you know, we're not alone in this. The Americans do it every 4 years, and they have a similar problem of trying to get policy implemented in the very narrow window that's available. I think the bad misfortune for South Africa now is that we have a year of a very robust election campaign coming. We've got this coupled with internal difficulties within the alliance, and of course we've got extreme economic pressures hampering our progress and competitiveness. So it's almost a perfect storm in a sense, and whether or not, I must say, I'm skeptical that we're going to get any kind of the structural changes to policy that Jill Marcus is suggesting, simply because this issue of shoring up the alliance before the next election, I think is going to be paramount and more important to the ANC than being pragmatic on prudent policy choices.
But those prudent policy choices are the difference between life and death for many millions of South Africans, or at least not death but necessary, but life and a miserable life for many millions of South Africans.
Well, I think that's the debate that we're having at the moment, the debate within the ANC, and I think there are increasingly two narratives within the ANC. One that is saying, look, we're going to have to make hard-nosed decisions that might upset our alliance partners, and another group that are saying we need to shore up our political power. It's going to be a tougher, more competitive political environment after 2014, and we might have to put on the back burner some of these more fanciful policy adjustments like contained in the NDP in the interests of unity and power and strength after 2014. These two narratives are starting to play themselves out, and I believe they will clash over the next few years.
Jill can talk until she's blue in the face. Her words are going to fall on deaf ears because it's simply not politically expedient for her advice and her warnings to be heeded in the short term. We're stuck in the short-termism, are we?
Yes, we certainly stuck in the short term. I would agree with that, but I don't think that what she says simply sort of rolls off the duck's back, so to speak. I think that it does It does find an audience within the ANC. It does find an audience in the broader global community as well, and within the business community, those who can pressurize and lobby within the ANC. And I think it's very important that she make this kind of statement and continue to make this kind of statement. I think that it just draws us back into the real issues that need to be tackled.
There we go. Daniel Silke, the director at Political Futures Consultancy and the independent political analyst on the line to us from Cape Town this